In the Survivor community, the term edgic is used quite often. Edgic is a combination of the words editing and logic, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. Fans look for edit clues for the winner, e.g. the classic winner's quote, or the amount of screen time they get regarding their strategy and personal content given. But at the same time, people need to use logic. Like a player may get that personal content, but then be invisible for the next couple episodes. Sure, the personal content was a great look edit-wise, but when you think about it logically, why would the winner of the season have multiple episodes without a confessional? Or, if someone isn't that big of a character, but still receives consistent content, that's a massive giveaway that they're probably the winner. Because when you think about it logically, why else would such a boring character, who doesn't really add much to the season, get so much content? And to the credit of Edgic, it has been pretty accurate over the years, especially since Survivor has been on for 41 seasons, and Edgic usually knows what to look for. A great example of this is Aubrey and Michelle in Ko-Rong. Aubrey was insanely popular with the casuals, as not only was she a kooky and relatable underdog, but she made some of the biggest moves in Ko-Rong. All the while, she got consistent game and personal content throughout the season, making her the clear favorite for the casual viewer. However, Edgic saw the clear winner edgically in Michelle. Because despite Aubrey having such an amazing story, Michelle not only got a similar amount of content, but she got content at points when she didn't need it. I mean, in the penultimate merge vote, an episode when she didn't even go to Tribal, she got the most amount of confessionals in that episode. Edgic saw that Survivor couldn't hide what a gem they found with Aubrey, but at the same time, they also wanted to explain why Michelle ultimately beat Aubrey, and Michelle was the clear frontrunner all season, Edgic-wise. So the point is, Edgic is a good thing to look up on when it comes to reading the Survivor edit. However, even Edgic can be blindsided at times. So today, let's take a look at the 5 biggest Edgic blindsides in Survivor history. Let's start off with probably the most noteworthy Edgic blindside in history, with Natalie White's win in Survivor Samoa. I mean, it was simply so unprecedented that a Survivor winner could be this invisible. Natalie had 15 confessionals compared to Russell's 108, and didn't even get her first confessional until episode 4. And the thing was, this wasn't even like a why Russell lost type season, similar to that of Coach in South Pacific. I mean, I guess that's obviously what ultimately this could be labeled as, but I mean, come on, how badly do we need to stretch for that? Russell was constantly praised in every episode by the editors and the players, and I would say the negative content he got made up less than 10% of his edit. And when you have the most amount of single season content in Survivor history, that's pretty impressive. And the only real reason we were given for Natalie's win was her confessional about bonding with the Galu members, which she also brought up in her final confessional. But again, it's such grasping for straws at that point. And I mean, going into the finale, Mick had a much better chance of winning Edgic-wise, and fun fact, was actually going to win heading into the final Tribal Council. But Natalie's performance won the jury over. The closest thing to a shocking Survivor winner we had seen up until this point was Danny in Guatemala. But again, to compare the edit of Guatemala to the edit of Samoa is simply unfair. Samoa was simply a season of Survivor going all in on a once-in-a-generation player, and completely buried its winner in the process, leaving Edgic in shambles. However, with Russell losing Samoa, this left Edgic with a new theory. Survivor winners couldn't be over the top. There's actually a term in the Edgic community for the over the top player episodes, e.g. a performance where a character is so beyond out there and over the top that it's impossible to ignore them. And if there was ever a character that fit this stereotype, it's Mr. Tony Vlachos. Every single episode, the man was a massive presence as he created spy shacks, made llama noises, got into constant arguments, all while playing extremely hard as he found advantages and flipped back and forth between alliances every single tribal. But after we saw Russell lose years prior, people believed Tony would have the same ill fate. And what was even worse for Tony's cause was that there was plenty of contenders in Cagayan, as opposed to Samoa. LJ got an amazing edit despite being a merge boot, and was the frontrunner the first half of the game. After he was taken out, the new frontrunners were Spencer and Wu. Wu got the classic second-in-command winners edit, and was seen as protected by Tony's over-the-top shenanigans. And in general, he was just a cool dude you could get behind as a winner. And of course, Spencer had one of the best underdog runs in Survivor history, and every episode, it seemed more and more likely he would pull off the win. And believe it or not, going into the finale, even Cass was seen as a bigger threat to win than Tony by the Edgic community due to Tony's insane over-the-top edit. But this time, the over-the-top player did win, and once again left the Edgic community in shambles. except this time in the best of ways. The editors didn't try to hide Tony. They knew they had another all-time great character on their hands, and they wanted to showcase all parts of him, which included all the bad. And yeah, there was a lot of bad in Tony's edit, far more bad than Russell's edit. Survivor most likely knew that they would never get a better character than Tony to win Survivor, and didn't edit out all the bad antics just to make him a more appealing and prototypical winner. To this day, Tony remains the only over-the-top winner in Survivor history, and with that edit being a 1 in 40, it's safe to say Edgic was completely shocked at his win. In San Juan del Sur, we got two obvious winner edits in Jeremy and Josh. I mean, they both ticked all the check marks for a Survivor winner. They had a bevy of personal content. They were shown to be the masterminds and best strategic players of each tribe. They had far and away the most amount of confessionals, and going into the merge, it looked like whichever person came out on top would be set up good to win the game. And at the final 11, it looked like Jeremy was our winner of San Juan del Sur, after Josh was blindsided in a 6-5 vote. Not only was Jeremy in the best position Edgic-wise, but he was in a great position in the game in general. He was in the majority alliance, wasn't in a loved ones pair, was trusted by many people in the minority alliance, and was a physical beast who could easily win multiple immunities. But the very next episode after Josh's blindside, Jeremy and the audience were completely blindsided in a 5-3-2 vote. After Jeremy simply accused John of having an idol, John thought Jeremy was too dangerous and used his duo's alliance and Reed's vote to blindside Jeremy. This left the audience completely stunned. To not only have the biggest contenders go out, but go out back-to-back to start the merge when they were the most prominent pre-merge figures was insane, and left people scratching their heads at who could possibly now win. Natalie's edit ultimately did pick up, and used Jeremy's blindside as her revenge tour. But still, this was so shocking that San Juan del Sur was actually seen as a terrible season by the fans who were watching it live in 2014. And a large part of this is due to this massive Edgic blindside. Fans felt like they essentially wasted their time watching the first half of the season, since the story we were being shown didn't lead to anything, and they couldn't really get invested in the final 9 onwards. It's one of the reasons why I think San Juan del Sur is easily the best season to rewatch, cause you know the shock is coming this time. But in the end, the editors didn't try to hide the dominance of Jeremy and Josh's pre-merge games, even though they didn't add much else to the season. And while it's cool we got to see so much of the two, there's no question how much of an almost unforgivable, shocking 2 episodes their eliminations were. Now on to season 41. And let's be honest, there's been a lot of flaws within this season. The wokeness, the amount of advantages, the confusing edit, and in general, a lot of the problems with modern Survivor. One thing that has been great is the cast. There's so many people who, if they were to win this season, would be an absolute gem of a Survivor character winner. But the main frontrunner to win this season was Tiffany. And this is a case similar to Michelle's edit in Ko Wrong, in that while the casuals may find it crazy that Tiffany would be the frontrunner to win, Edgic was all over it. Tiffany was an over-the-top personality, who the show could have easily made fun of on multiple occasions, similar to that of Honora. Yet, the edit pretty much consistently showed her to be a strong-minded player, who was a part of the Yase Alliance that got their hinted underdog foreshadowing with the turtles on the beach scene. Tiffany also had a great premiere episode, got consistent content, and didn't have nearly as many flaws as the other top contenders. For example, just look at her closest ally in Evie. Instead of Evie getting all the content explaining why Voce was the one to go, it was Tiffany that got all the content. Fringe contenders like Xander and Liliana's content has been mostly tied to advantages, and the show simply had to show them. And then there's Shan. Even Edgic couldn't deny her massive winners edit, as she got so much game and personal content, far and away being the most visible character this season. However, recently, we've gotten quite a bit of negative content from Shan, with her showing to be paranoid, and there's little tidbits throughout these last couple of episodes from other players saying that Shan is too bossy and needs to be taken out down the road. The edit was now clear at this point. This was a why Shan lost season, with Tiffany being the one to win the game. Now, Tiffany definitely had her flaws, the big one being her paranoia shown in episode 2, but mostly everyone agreed this was the story we were being told. But then, she was taken out with no real story at the final 11? Like, what? Why is someone who is getting such a good edit, especially for her archetype, taken out like this? If you took one look at the Edgic forums this past week, you could see it's an absolute shambles. Literally nobody has any idea now who's going to win. since Tiffany was such an obvious winner. I mean, is Shan going to be the first over-the-top female winner in Survivor history? And with her being a woman of color, the show wants to highlight her ups and downs? Is Xander or Evie going to pull off a Natalie and shine the rest of the season? Is an ally of Shan like Deshawn, Ricard, or Liliana going to be the one to come out on top in this Why Shan Lost story? Screw it, maybe Heather might win at this point, and Survivor is really taking on a new era and produces its first invisible winner. In the end, this is the biggest Edgic shock in a long time, and it will be really interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out, as the winner of this season will definitely have a very unconventional winner's edit. At number 1, is an Edgic Blindside so crazy that it makes everything else on the list look like nothing. Like, imagine the reactions to Tiffany's elimination times 100. And I guess it's only fitting that the Trainwreck season of Gabon would be the season to throw Edgic out the window. The best Edgic Blindside in Survivor history is without question Marcus's boot at the final 10 in Survivor Gabon. I mean, how? Just how did Marcus go in this spot? This is a man who not only got consistent content, but his gameplay far and away outshined everyone else. It's been said numerous times just how ridiculous Gabon is, but come on, look at Marcus's competition. Basically all the players who had been on Fong at that point had been made fun of numerous times by the show, and even the eventual winner Bob had no type of story whatsoever, in part due to him being such a non-factor gameplay-wise. And going into the final 10, Marcus was basically a Boston Rob, Redemption Island-like frontrunner Edgic-wise. He was so out in front that Kenny, who was most people's second choice, really wasn't even that much of a thought to win either. Marcus had the edit backing him up big time, and was the only smart player grouped with a bunch of morons. And at the final 10, he had the majority alliance on the new and old Coda, and of course was a great physical competitor. For God's sakes, he even got the entire tribe to throw the merge idol into the water, as that was really the only thing that could stop him. Marcus basically had an easy ride to the end. But then, to the shock of everyone, there was a second tribe swap instead of a merge. But hey, no big deal, he was still in the majority, and even though Susie was on the bottom, it's not like a woman like her would ever pull off a big time move. And best of all, Marcus, Bob, and Susie's target was Marcus's only competition Edgic-wise, and Kenny. So, the little chance that Marcus had at not winning this season will be put to an end this episode. But then, and not only a blindside, but the biggest blindside in Survivor Edgic history, Susie freaking Smith flipped on Marcus, and one of the most obvious winners ever didn't even make it to the merge. It's simply unreal just how much Marcus was built up, only to be taken out in 10th place. And then, as mentioned, Kenny was now the new frontrunner, especially when Fong officially took over the numbers at the merge. However, Maddie's edit really picked up, especially during the moment he got with his girlfriend during the family visit. And he also became a huge frontrunner going into the finale. Yet, neither of the two even made it to the final 3, and we were left with the hilarious final 3 of Bob, Susie, and Sugar. And to be fair, Bob was the favorite to win in this final 3 scenario, but there was simply no saving Edgic at this point. So not only did the frontrunners this season not even make it to the final tribal council, but one of the biggest frontrunners in Survivor Edgic history was blindsided at the final 10 by Susie Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Gabon to a T. It throws logic out the window, and that is why we all love it. Thank you guys for watching, and if you're interested in learning more about Edgic, I'll link an article in the description that describes Edgic more in detail. If you like what you see, then smash that like and subscribe button, and let me know in the comments the most you've ever been blindsided when watching Survivor. With that said, have a good one guys, and I'll see you next time.